Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you today. Yeah, the boosters are angry at Tennessee, folks, and also the portal chaos is getting ready to really get rolling. It's going to be today through the next 10 days, and we're probably going to see some significant movement at the quarterback position because Tennessee's got to get a quarterback, and they're looking hard in the Big 12 and other places other than the SEC. And that's going to cause a domino effect because as soon as you pluck one of those guys, they're going to have to find somebody to fill that spot. But this whole thing has just been a shock to everybody. I mean, just a few days ago, I thought everything was fine at Tennessee. Next thing you know, boom.
If I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn to the carpet, I wouldn't be more surprised than I am right now.
If my head had been sewn to the carpet, I wouldn't have been this shocked. You'd be kidding me. All right, let's talk about the Tennessee situation and where they're standing right now. Now, there's a lot of talk, and I've been hearing this, that the boosters and a lot of folks around Tennessee, they're angry and they're a little bit embarrassed, but more angry, I think. I've not only heard that from some of my sources around town, I heard this from Tony Basilio, who is somebody I've known for a long time, not really well, but when I ran River Islands Golf Course back in the 90s, he was on AM radio, had his own show, and he used to run ads for the golf course. And he's been doing this a long time, and let me let you listen to what he had to say. And this is on the George Plaster Show, which is out of Nashville.
The last quarterback made $2.4 million, and George, these boosters don't get in this thing to get embarrassed like that, the way they got embarrassed over the weekend.
Yep.
That could easily grow to $4 million for the right person when these boosters get angry. They spend.
So I'm guessing you've heard the TJ Hushmanzada stuff.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this TJ guy, the wide receiver that talked about how Tennessee was going to change their offense for Nico and that he had supposedly agreed to that, which I don't believe for a second.
Liar!
Yeah, that's absurd. Anyway, this is what Basilio had to say about this.
You've heard it.
Sure. Yeah.
What was your reaction? I mean, is this just a bunch of crap he threw out there, or is there anything about what he said that is remotely true?
Wide receivers live on parallel universes. That's where they live. Would be the way I'd reply to that. Let me tell you something. Why would you change your offense? Who gets the offense changed for him? For a replacement level quarterback? Who is this guy? Is he Aaron Rodgers? I might change my offense for Joe Burrow at LSU. For that Nico guy? I mean, you got to be kidding me.
And my brother Junebug, who's been on the show many times, he's been listening to Tony for a long time. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's no way you change your offense for one dude who's getting ready to go to the NFL. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about his handlers, that they're like, they don't care what happens to Tennessee. The only thing they're concerned about is making sure Nico's happy and that he's heading for more money. And oh, by the way, double his pay too while you're at it. That's not going to happen in the real world. And I tell you, this reminds me so much of the Lane Kiffin situation that it just blows my mind.
Thanks for coming, guys. This was not an easy decision. This is something that happened very quick. A decision that myself and my family made, and we've been here 14 months. The support has been unbelievable here. I really believe that this is probably the only place that I would have left here to go, was to go to Southern Cal.
Oh yeah, that was a huge mess. That came just immediately. We didn't even get like 24 hours notice on that one. It just popped up, and all of a sudden mattresses are being burned out in the at the campus. And then a lot of people are asking the question, you know, what if it turns out that he's not going to find a really good deal out there. He's going to take a pay cut. Everybody's saying that. I totally agree with it. He's overplayed his hand, and the timing of this could not be worse. He should have shown up for that practice. I mean, if you're going to negotiate, you don't throw away the $2.4 million deal you've got in hand and then go out and just say, well, you know, everybody else give me a bunch of money. There's no end of the level of stupidity that this was.
What an idiot. Oh, what a loser.
He's probably going to end up getting somewhere between 1 and 1.5. And we've already heard North Carolina's out, which Bill Belichick, I knew that was no way. Can you imagine what that conversation was like? Yeah, this is Bill. Yeah. Nico? Yeah. Yeah, he's about 1.2 is what he's worth. 1 to 1.2. No, we won't be doing that. $4 million, that's ridiculous. You want a what? You want a house to stay in while you're there visiting? $1 million house for his family? Well, they got a pretty good Motel 6 down there in Best Western. You might want to check that out. It'd probably be pretty good for you. Yeah, but 1 to 1.2. Okay, well, yeah, we won't be doing that. See you now. That's exactly how that would have gone. Tulane, we understand they're out. The big ones, the Oregon, the Ohio States, the Notre Dames, all that, they're out. The Ohio State fans, oh man, it was brought up that maybe he would go there. Man, I have been inundated by Ohio State fans. They're like, we don't want any part of this dude. How dare you? Calm down, OSU fans. Jeez. Now we're going to talk about where everybody thinks he's going to wind up is UCLA. However, maybe not. And this is Locked On College Football. And the guy right here, the Spencer guy, he also, I believe, does Locked On Oregon. If you recognize him, he's the guy that said right off the bat, he said, I don't want Nico anywhere near Oregon. But let's see what the UCLA guy is. And you've probably seen this guy before. I featured him when we were playing them in basketball in the Sweet 16.
He's going to stay there for multiple years. He's not going to ask for an increase in money again. Why would they go after this? I don't think this would be a good option. Obviously, it'd probably be an upgraded quarterback, right? That's not a ridiculous thing to say. But the problem is, why would they pay so much more money for this when UCLA, I think, is fine living with Joey Aguilar for a year and recruiting some of the best uncommitted guys in SoCal for 26 and living with this season? I mean, this would be entertaining. From an entertainment standpoint, I love it. From an actual fit, this makes no sense. In UCLA, I've been confused. Why are they in on this guy? They just got burned by his brother, two different players. His brother is better, Nico, that is. But there's no reason this would make any sense in any world for any side.
Yeah, so UCLA doesn't sound too excited about it either. And that guy covers UCLA all the time, so he would know. Now let's talk about something nobody's talking about. You bring this guy in, and he signs for, whatever. He's probably going to be disgruntled if it's less than at least $2.4 million. Even then he's disgruntled because now he's having to relearn a playbook. He's probably not going to have the offensive line in front of him he wants, and he's not going to be treated like a king. And if he's in there for 1 or 1.5, he's ticked off. So you got that problem. Then let's say you're successful. Let's say somehow you make it to the playoff. You don't think he's going to hit you up for some more money before that happens? Or the bowl game? I mean, come on. You know darn well it's going to be, hey, you didn't pay me very much and look what I did for you. So it's going to be a difficult spot for any team out there. And you got to deal with his handlers, which is a whole different thing, which I think is the big problem. Now we're going to talk about the thing that everybody's been talking about is what if he came back to Tennessee? And we've been hearing some of that pretty much everywhere.
Any chance at all Nico heads back to Tennessee, or is that not possible if you enter the transfer portal?
Considering publicly what his side said today, and look, Josh Heupel had to cut ties after he skipped practice. I think it's highly, 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 highly unlikely. I would never say never, but I would think it's a less than 1% chance. And I think it's, in a lot of ways, Pat, it is the best place for him, right?
And I would say this. Let's say Tennessee's looking out there, and I'm going to talk about the quarterbacks that they're looking at. And Nico went out there and couldn't find anybody. Does it make sense that he would come back? If it were only Nico and he didn't have his handlers around him, sure, that would definitely be possible, if he apologized to the fan base.
Apologize.
All right, I apologize.
You're really sorry.
I'm really, really sorry. I apologize unreservedly.
You take it back.
I do. I offer a complete and utter retraction.
And to the team and all of that, I think you could work something out with Nico. He strikes me as a pretty humble guy. But I don't think there's any chance at all because of the pride involved with the handlers or his team. It's almost 0% chance. It's almost like Lane Kiffin coming back. It's just an impossibility. You just can't do that. And I don't think people blame Nico like they do Lane. Lane made the decision. Nico, I don't know how much control he really has. I know he's 20 years old. I get it. But my understanding is that guy kind of dominates. So anyway, that covers a lot of that. Now let's talk about what Tennessee can do as far as transfer portal. Now they're looking, obviously, in the Big 12. The ideal guy would be Sam Leavitt out of Arizona State, which would break Arizona State's heart. And I really wouldn't want to do that to their fan base because that guy's awesome. But, you know, if we could somehow get him, I wouldn't be unhappy. There's also talk of Sawyer Robinson out of Baylor, but he's not really a running quarterback. There's Avery Johnson out of Kansas State. I know they're going to certainly kick the tires on that guy. And then there's Rocco Becht out of Iowa State, which might be a good pickup for them. He had a good season last year. Those will be the guys they go after first. And then if they're unable to, because look, the timing's terrible on this. They've already gone through their spring practice. They've already signed contracts. They're the starting quarterback. You know, you'd have to throw a lot of money at them, which honestly Tennessee's probably willing to do if it's the right guy. But they'd have to walk out on their teammates. It'd be kind of tricky. Tennessee might have to go to a group of 5 type team and, you know, that's maybe making $500,000 or $1 million and, you know, double his pay and find somebody who's a great running. Look, what they need is Hendon Hooker 2.0. They need to find a guy that's got experience, that's a really good athlete, can run like the wind, and is fairly accurate, and can pick up on things quickly. That's who they need to be going for. And I think there's some guys out there like that they'll be able to find. It's just a matter of getting a little bit lucky at this point. Because, you know, if it were me, you know, I'd be looking at probably...
We'll take Danny Noonan.
Oh, Danny's an employee of the club. He can't work and play, particularly something as illegal as this.
But Danny's an employee of the club, so I don't know that necessarily we could get him. But it's a big mess. There's only one other possibility, and this has been floated out there all over the internet. I'm sure you've seen it. What if he just went back in to the locker room and acted like it never happened? Just say, I never quit. What are you talking about? I got a deal for $2.4 million. I'm not going anywhere.
What are you doing here?
What? I work here.
I thought you quit.
What quit? Who quit?
Yeah, the George Costanza defense. Just go with that. That makes more sense than what's happened. I would just go in there and hey, let's get out there on the field. What an absolute mess. So the transfer portal, I think what's going to happen is nothing today. It'll be a couple, because they don't want, you know, oh, well, you were tampering. They'll wait a few days, and then something will probably get announced first of next week, if I had to guess, something along those lines that Tennessee has signed this person or whoever. The Nico thing, I don't know. This could drag out. I know he's out there with the no contact tag, which means nothing. That's just them trying, oh, well, we're just so in demand. We don't want anybody bothering us. I could see that dragging out a while. I really, really could, because they're going to hold out for money, and there's no team out there that needs to throw money at them. They're going to get him at a discount, and probably a pretty good one if they're smart. We'll see, but it's going to be a heck of a 10 days, and I'm going to be sitting there with popcorn watching the crap out of this. And I hope Tennessee gets a really good quarterback, and for Nico, for his sake, he'll land somewhere where he's going to get to be quarterback and not be totally controlled by his team. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know continue to cover all these big college sports stories. Man, y'all been commenting like crazy on these shows, and I've been in the comment section some days 4 hours, and I've been really enjoying hearing what y'all have to say. And if you haven't subscribed, hit this little button right here. Boom. Don't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video. YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jack.
I want you to know it's over.
Well, bye.